Hey guys, so this is gonna be a typical recording. I'm not going to do any more edits. I'm not going to be speaking about special topics on self-improvement. I don't know. I'm just gonna go about my day. So I was thinking so much about how I'm doing my laundry. My family's laundry. So my wife left the the washing machine run, and my job is just to fold everything and hang them outside. Yep. 50-50 is what they say in a marriage. 50-50. Sometimes it's not 50-50. Sometimes it's like fucking 80-40, 80-20. Sometimes it's 90-10. Sometimes it's 30-70. Whatever it is, like. So this is the 50-50 for today. Feels more like 70-30. I mean, she just like 90-10 actually. She just turned on the washing machine. But to be honest, she usually does most of this work, so I don't mind doing it every once in a while. Yeah. So. Last night, my wife and I had this really wonderful conversation. Like we had kind of a low day. We weren't talking so much during the day, and I called her like before I went to bed. I told her, "Hey, you wanna come and spend some time with me?" So we have 2 kids. Our firstborn is 3, gonna be 4 next month, and the secondborn is 6 months. So what happens is my wife and my kids sleep in one room, and I sleep in a separate room because my daughter wants to sleep in our big bed, right? And my son is sleeping in the baby crib. So I don't want to like get into the bed with my wife and daughter because my daughter is always like kicking and turning around. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna move to the other room, which it's been good enough. But that also now means that my wife and I don't get to spend enough time together at night. Just pillow talk is important in marriage. I think it's really important. Anyway, so last night I noticed that we weren't talking so much. Like there was something going on. Right, so at around 11 p.m. I could tell my wife, "Hey, you wanna come and spend some time with me in my room?" And so she comes on over, right? She comes over, and I asked her, "Hey, is anything wrong?" And she's like, "Hey, like this morning, I asked you something and you ignored me." I was like, "What? You asked me something and I ignored you? Like, what did you ask me and I ignored you?" So she told me what she believed I had ignored her, but I hadn't ignored her. I wasn't vocal enough when I responded, right? And so anyway, we moved on. It wasn't much of an issue, and so we just started talking about random stuff, right? We talked about like raising our kid, like especially our daughter, who's like she's like I've said she's gonna be 4 next month, but she's been throwing tantrums like crazy recently. So we're like wondering like what's causing this? What are we doing wrong? Like is it us? Is it me? Is it you? Like what's happening, right? So we came to the conclusion like, you know what? She's only 4, or rather she's gonna be 4. Whatever she's doing wrong is 100% our fault. We need to figure out what we are doing wrong, right? And sometimes it's like, so my daughter has this really bad habit, like it's something that really bothers me, whereby she really wants to get attention from strangers, right? And every time we go to the park, it's nothing bad. It's usually just an older kid, someone who's maybe in elementary school. But every once in a while, she'll go to just walk up to someone's dad, like, like, "Hey, look, I can do this, I can do this." And so I try to explain to her, like, "Hey, listen, not everyone here is your friend. I understand your intention, you want to show them how amazing you are, like you can swing on your own. Some kids older than you can do that. I get that, but not everyone is your friend. There are some bad people out there." But she can't even understand. So when I tell her there's some bad people out there, her response to me is like, "No one is bad." So I'm like, okay, I have to figure out why she's seeking attention from random people, right? So my wife and I was like, maybe we just have to give her more attention, because what we did realize was that so there were times when my daughter and I would just go out alone, like just the 2 of us, go out and spend the whole day some random place, maybe. So I live in Japan, and I live in Osaka. So every once in a while, I will take my daughter and go to Nara City, like look at the deers, look at the temples and stuff. And while we were there, just the 2 of us, my daughter was amazing. She didn't no tantrums, no following random strangers. And I assume the reason she was being so well behaved was because I had no choice but to give her my complete undivided attention, because we're in a foreign place. I mean, like a place she's not accustomed to. But when we're like in our local park, right, I don't worry about what she's doing. It's like as long as I know she's in the swing area, that's good enough for me. As long as I know she's in the jungle gym area, that's good enough for me. But when you go out for a long trip, it's like I have to give her, like, like it's tunnel vision for me. It's like it's only her I can see, right? And so in that sense, she's always well behaved. So last night my wife and I were talking about, like, hey, we have to, maybe that's what we need to do, like give her our complete undivided attention. That way she won't need it from anyone else. Because, like, worst case scenario, she meets the one guy in our neighborhood, in this place. Funny thing, and this is something that really scared me. I was actually with my daughter a week or two ago at the park, right? And I see this guy with a tiny digital camera walking around taking pictures of people, and I just spot him out of the corner of my eye, and I just look at him. I'm like, just keep eye contact, and I'm looking at this guy, I'm looking at him, and I notice he keeps the camera in his pocket, like he puts the camera in his pocket, like, oh, bye, right? And he walks away. And I was like, what the fuck is he doing? And he's one of those creeps I'm talking about, right? So imagine if my daughter ran into this guy while she's on her own, So either way, like, what was I going to say? Fuck, I forgot. I lost track of my thoughts. Yeah, okay, so as I was saying, my daughter might run into this guy while she's on her own. That's the worst case scenario, running into a creep like this, and you want this creep's attention, right? Or best case scenario, in her younger years, she keeps doing this thing and nothing bad happens. People just tell her, oh, that's a good job, you're amazing, like, oh, you're so cute. Nothing bad happens. But she grows into a woman who's just chasing attention from random people, right? The one guy who tells her you're cute, you're beautiful, she'll just jump into that guy's life, And I don't want that for my child. I don't want that for my daughter. That thought scares me. So anyway, this was one of the conversations my wife and I were having last night. And so, as we're talking, I bring up another conversation, and the question is about, like, it's about religion. Like, people say this is a faux pas, don't discuss religion around family, but if I can't discuss religion with my wife, like, then who will I discuss religion with? I mean, it is a very important part of my life, and my wife is also a very important part of my life. So these two things should be able to coexist, right? And to the most part, they do coexist. My wife, like most Japanese people, is a non-practicing Buddhist. I don't even know if she's really. She says she's a Buddhist because her father is a Buddhist, but she doesn't practice. I don't really see her father practice as well. I'm not saying he doesn't, I just haven't seen it, right? I know the mother is a Shinto, and the mother often goes to the temple. There's a small, like, church, like, not really a temple, a shrine, just a place where they go and see the monk, and the mother, they have meetings with the Shinto monk, and I don't know, they pray and they chant and stuff. So the mother is a practicing Shinto, but the father, I've not seen the father is a Buddhist. I've not seen him practice, and I've also never seen my wife practice. So, but nonetheless, my wife, and the kids go to church every Sunday. Well, not every Sunday, but we go to church regularly. And my wife doesn't. My kids have been baptized, and my wife didn't mind. So it's like, so last night we got in talking about, like, I started the conversation off this way. This is how I will convert a non-Christian to Christianity. And my argument was this. Imagine if Jesus was actually a charlatan. Like, he wasn't actually the Son of God. For whatever reason, he wanted people to follow him. Maybe he was just a narcissist. And his influence was growing, to spreading across Judea, across Israel. And so the Pharisees get wind of this, the Romans get wind of this, and now everyone's like, we have to stop this guy. Like, whatever he's saying, we don't like it, we have to stop this guy. And eventually, with a big enough following, it's very hard to hide from the powers that be. And so they come for him, and now they have, like, we are here, the Pharisees, the Jews, the Pharisees and the Romans, they're now here, and now we have a hold of Jesus. And they take Jesus to court, right? and they tell Jesus, like, hey, whatever you said about being the Son of God, we need you to take that shit back. Because if you don't, we're going to crucify you like all these people you can see up here, right? Now, at this point, if Jesus was a charlatan, he would have just said, no, I was just fucking around. I'm not the Son of God because I don't want this to happen to me, right? But he didn't say that. He said, I am the law of Moses. I'm the Son of God. I'm expecting this to happen to me, right? So, Jesus, even though he wasn't the Son of God, he probably believed it. And not only that, he believed that his death will serve every human being to exist. His death will be a sacrifice in the sake of everyone else. Whether or not he's the Son of God, this individual obviously believed this. Now, if you can think about Hitler thought he was doing good by getting rid of the Jews, right? But imagine if Hitler was like, you know what, the best thing I can do for humanity is to kill myself. The best thing I can do for you is for me to take everyone's burden, to be punished for everyone's sake. Now, Jesus did that. Now, for that guy, I will believe him. I will follow him. Even though he's not the Son of God, he is willing to sacrifice himself for my sake. So anyway, we have this conversation, my wife and I. And I'm going to go to the balcony. Let's go to the balcony. And so as we're having this conversation, my wife goes into the question of like, so Oscar, I don't really understand what. Okay, so she keeps quiet for a while. She's silent for a while, like maybe processing what I've just been talking to her about, right? Like, can I put this thing? Anyway. Maybe I should probably get a stool or something. Okay, so as I'm saying this, my wife, like, once I finish saying this, my wife is quiet for a while. Like, she's so quiet to the point where I think like, maybe she's either not interested in this or she'd rather talk about something else. So like, I do the correct, the politically correct thing, and I say, hey, what were we talking about before? Right? I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna change the topic. But my wife says, I really wonder I don't understand what people say when they mean God. Fair enough. She's a Buddhist, a non-practicing Buddhist. She doesn't understand what people mean when they say God. And so I start thinking about it. What do I mean when I say God? It's like now we're getting into the crux of the situation. What do I mean? What does Oscar mean when he says God? And so she says, like, Oscar, you recently got an article published by, like a Japanese newspaper. And I'm like, you posted on Instagram, thank you, God. But wasn't it all your effort that got the newspaper published? I was like, yeah, you know what, you're right. I did put in effort. It was years of like me writing and, hoping that I'd meet someone who'd introduce me to somebody who'd help me get something of mine published, right? It was a lot of my effort. But then I started thinking, like, the person I met who introduced me to the paper is someone I met in Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, I'm not going to out this guy, of course, but either way, the point is, I met this guy in Alcoholics Anonymous. I met this guy when I was about to get my 2-year chip, right? And so by this time, I'm really, really feeling the message of AA. And because he's new, he's really paying attention to everything that people around him are saying. And so he's really listening to me. And as the more he listens, the more interested he becomes in me. And he tells me, you know what, Oscar, you really have a way with words. And I tell him, thank you. I actually enjoy some writing. I actually enjoy writing as well. And he's like, okay, Oscar, send me some of your stuff. I'd like to read what you write. By this time, keep in mind, I don't know that this guy works for a newspaper. And so I send him some of his stuff. Like, I do write short stories and I post them all on Substack. I send him some of my stuff. He reads my stuff and he gets back like, Oscar, man, your writing is so good. I'm like, oh, thank you. And he says, Oscar, have you ever thought about writing for a newspaper? I'm like, no, I've not really thought about it, but I wouldn't mind giving it a shot. Well, I work for such and such newspaper. Like, oh shit, I didn't know that. So we start. So he encourages me to contact his editor and tell him about my idea, like what will I want to write about. So I tell him, you know what, I'm going to write about, it's a newspaper writer, you just can't write random things. Let me write about something. Actually, no, I'm going to write about my journey in sobriety. So I write an article. First I send it to my friend. My friend reads it, suggests a few edits here and there, and then we send it to the editor, and the editor really likes the piece. So I tell my wife, of course it was my effort. I'm the one who did the writing. I'm the one who did the rewriting. I'm the one who fell in love with writing in the first place. But God is a thread that connected everything, from like being a 7-year-old kid who locked himself up in the bedroom just so he can write. Back then it was pen and paper. I didn't have a laptop or computer to type my ideas in. So I would imagine being a 7-year-old kid. All your friends are going out to play football, When I say football, I'm a Kenyan, so I mean soccer. So all my friends were going out to play football, and I would be just in my room, writing away. And I didn't know what I was writing. I was just writing because that made me feel alive, right? But at the age of 7, you don't imagine that your writing is going to make you rich, it's going to make you famous. You just write, you just do what you like to do, right? There is no at that age, I didn't have the idea in the back of my maybe one day I'm going to make money from being a writer. Maybe someone is going to pay me for my writing. No, it was just write. That's all you have to do. Just write. And I kept writing, and for so long nothing was happening, but I kept writing. But then I meet all these people who are interested in my writing. They're interested in what I have to say, and they give me connections. But so this is God, the thread. And look at how this thread goes. It's writing. I fall into alcoholism. Now I'm fucked. I get out of alcoholism through AA. And in AA, I meet the one guy who can help me kind of blow up my writing, or at least open the doors to other possibilities to do with my writing. That thread is God. As far as I'm concerned, this is just my opinion, right? And so my wife still gets back and says yeah, but still it's your effort. And so I use another idea. So for any of those who know, there is a book. This is maybe the quintessential Hindu religious text called the Bhagavad Gita. Anyone who's watched the Oppenheimer movie knows that phrase, I am death, destroyer of worlds. That phrase comes from the Bhagavad Gita. So, either way, to proceed. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a guy called Arjuna. Arjuna is a king. And the king is going into battle. A war is about to begin. The king is scared of fighting. The king doesn't want to fight. The king is scared of losing his friends. He doesn't want to kill people. He's scared of losing his fellow troops, his fellow men. So the king tells Shiva, the god he's discussing within the story. Man, sorry for the background noise. There's construction right across from me, so please don't mind that. So Arjuna tells Shiva, I don't fight, I don't do this, I don't want to see death, I don't want to see suffering. And Shiva's hey, bro. Hey. He says, your job is to fight. The consequences of your actions do not belong to you. Your job is just to fight. So going back to my story about writing, my job is just to write. Whatever comes from my writing, that does not belong to me. But God instilled in me the desire to write. It's like Jordan Peterson put it the best way. When you find yourself interested or passionate in something, you did not choose that. It's almost as though that thing chose you. One moment. I don't know if you've ever felt that, like, like the things you're interested in, like, did you actually, whether you're interested in football or swimming, whatever interest you have, are you the one who actively chose to be interested in that thing? No, it's like I don't remember deciding before I enjoyed writing, decide, you know what, I want to enjoy writing. I don't recall that. It's like one day I start writing, I'm like, geez, this feels amazing. And thus, I put forth before you that, it's like, maybe that's God. God is like, not just the thread, but also just the consequence of our actions, the consequence of the choices we make. That is God. Like, God instills in you like free will, and the free will is like, you can do whatever you want. But inside of you, I've put this spark. And the spark is, hey, you're gonna love writing. The spark is, hey, you're gonna love football. The spark is, you're gonna love programming. Now you have free will, free reign of what you want to do with that. But whatever comes from that, that doesn't belong to you. I'll deal with that. Let the world deal with that. And so now this is beyond what my wife and I discussed. So I was watching this show called 1923. 1923 is a prequel to the amazing Western Yellowstone. And in 1923, there's this guy, and he's an American cowboy he goes to Kenya. And in Kenya, he's a hunter. He hunts dangerous lions, like big cats that are actually killing people, right? And for those of you who think that's racist or there's something wrong with that, no, that actually, as a Kenyan, we know that there were lions that are actually killing people. Not anymore, but back then. If you're online, look for this Tsavo, Tsavo, man eaters. Look that up. That was a real thing. So anyway, according to this story, this guy was going to Kenya and such places to find this dangerous beast and stop them, kill them before they kill anyone else, right? And he's in a bar in Nairobi. He's in a hotel called Stanley's, which is still a very popular hotel to this day. He's in a hotel called Stanley's. And he's at the bar, and a group of women notice him, and they're like, oh my god, that guy's a hunter. So they go up to him, and one of the women goes up to him, and she's mesmerized by his animalistic nature, he's a brute. He doesn't have all the the charm, the politeness of the British aristocracy. He's just a cowboy, in Kenya, just hunting dangerous game, And I was thinking, man, this is what women like. They just want a brute who's so focused on his goal, right? Who's just so focused on the mission. But then I got thinking, they don't want a brute they're not looking for just some aggressive guy, Women want a guy who's focused on his mission. Actually, now that I recall, my wife and I discussed this to some degree. My wife was saying how, we're talking about how it's terrible for someone to chase someone else, for a man to chase a woman or a woman to chase a man. And I was saying, you know what? It's terrible for a man to chase a woman, but it's kind of understandable if a woman chases a man. And she was like, what do you mean? That's not okay. And I say that, because at the end of the day, if the woman who's chasing the man does get the man, what happens is that she has a man who's willing to protect this woman, especially if the man is financially well off, right? But if a man chases a woman, whether or not he he gets the woman, he gains nothing. He gains nothing. He gains nothing. Right? It's because in order for anyone to do any chasing, you have to sacrifice time. You are committed to pursuing whatever interest you have, right? And traditionally, men are the providers. And in order for you to be able to provide for your people, you have to have sacrificed everything else in order to learn what it takes to provide. So I was telling my wife how, like, if you meet a man, right, and he's well off, and you marry this man, he's gonna protect you, right? He can defend you, he can provide for you, he can protect you, you know what, all those things, all those nice things. However, if I chase a woman and I get her, what can she do for me? She can't provide for me, you know. And even if she can, it's like, do I want to be the kind of man who's depending on a woman to provide for me? Most men wouldn't take that option, even though it was available. Most men wouldn't want to be that guy who has his wife, you know, like pay the bills, pay the rent, you know, buy his clothes. Most men wouldn't want to be that guy, right? But there are some men who are that guy. And what happens to those men? Like, we mock them. Like, we almost can't help it. It's not like we're trying to mock them. It's like, it's just, fuck, like, what happened to you, right? We almost can't help it. And so, hold on, another, it's good enough, right? And so, what was I saying? So my wife was saying, like, if a woman does get a man who's well off, the man kind of becomes a tyrant. And I was saying, I asked her, what do you mean? And she goes on to say that if a man has money and the woman is a housewife, the man tends to look down on the wife because I'm making all the money. I just want you to, like, where's my dinner? Where's my dinner, wife? And I told my wife, like, that maybe there are people who are like that. I just don't know such people. My idea here is that any man with a head on his shoulders will know that if I'm working, you know, like fucking 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and I come back home and I'm exhausted, I don't want to be thinking about cooking dinner, right? But if my wife has dinner ready for me every night that I'm working this hard to provide for them, it's gonna dawn on me at some point in time that my life will be X times more miserable without this person in my life, right? I don't want to come home and start thinking about cooking dinner. And you might say, like, well, if you didn't have a woman, you just get Uber Eats or something. But hey, there's someone in your life who's taking time to cook a beautiful meal for you. And that is irreplaceable. That is irreplaceable, right? And people can say, oh, but people divorce and move on and so on. So I'm like, people who divorce are fucking losers. Unless you're in an abusive marriage, like, you're a fucking loser. Like, even abusive, like, is there really no way to solve that problem? Like, and I'm saying this as someone, yes, I've only been married for like 8 years, going on 9, right? It's not a long time. But we've had those moments where it's like, you know, I'm thinking, like, man, I fucked up. You know, I've had those moments where I'm honestly thinking, like, you know what, I actually fucked up. I don't want to be here. But you know what? All it takes is for the two of us to sit down, have a conversation, and realize, you know what? Whatever we have here, we can make it work. We actually do love each other. We care for each other, right? We are committed to each other. You know, it's like, if you've ever you're in university, right? And you are doing your foundation courses, it's all pretty easy. You know, it's like you're learning new things, it's interesting, but it gets to a point where you start doing your concentration courses, right? And now, it's getting more challenging, and you ask yourself, man, do I really want to do this? Am I sure this is what I want to do? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, right? But you actually have to sit down with yourself and figure out, like, is this what I want, right? And in marriage, like, if I chose to make this woman my wife, it means I decide I had to have the common sense to know like whether or not I'm in this for the long haul. And you know what? I am in this for the long haul. So when I see people divorcing all the time because they just weren't feeling it anymore, it's like, come, you weren't feeling it anymore. You weren't feeling it anymore. Really, really. So I'm gonna like do some of you know, if you've been listening to my podcast or the Instagram posts I've been making, that I don't go to the gym anymore because I sacrificed all my money to start a business and I lost some in a scam. I work out at home all the time nowadays, and you know, I was really worried about working out at home or going to the park, but the thing about working out at home that is really great is that I just work out whenever I want. Like really, like there's no schedule, there's no like routine. It's like, hey, I have time, I'm just gonna go and work out. And I work out several times a day now. It's just random throughout the day, just working out. So actually, this is kind of how people learn how to do pull-ups. So you don't know how to do a pull-up, and I thought it's kind of cringe. Like, I can do pull-ups, but I'm now doing this like a foundational routine to do a pull-up, and I was like, man, this sucks. But try and do 100 of them, and you realize, man, this is actually really tough. Like, I truly feel it in my lats. So this is how I do it. Like, hold up. Was that 25? That should be 25. So I do 4 sets of 25, and like, I'm already like would you call that like an inverted row, like a bodyweight row? I guess so. But anyway, so I'm really feeling it in my forearms. I'm really feeling it in my forearms. I'm really feeling it in my lats, right? Like, I'm actually feel like I love pull-ups. Like, whenever I was doing back day in the gym, I would really like start off my back day with like weighted pull-ups, and I'd like go like maybe start with 40 kilos, 5 reps, 35 kilos, 5 reps, all the way down until I've done 5 sets, right? 5 sets, 5 reps each. That's going down 5 kilos, 5 kilos, 5 kilos, right? And the thing about that kind of training, it feels really cool, right? To know that I can like lift myself with 40 kilos up to my waist. But then looking back, like after doing this, I wonder how many of those reps was stolen reps. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't really committed to those reps. But with this, and now that I have more time, actually, I can actually do proper reps. Anyway, I think I'm gonna put this recording to a close. I'm gonna keep doing this every day. It's actually really fun just talking to a camera. Take care, guys. Goodbye.